Hi guys, welcome to my video on access rules on the Cisco ASA firewall. So we will have a look at standard access rules for traffic going through the firewall as well as management traffic to the firewall itself. So if we start the Cisco ASA in demo mode, click OK here and this will load up shortly. We'll have a look at the management access rules first and then we'll have a look at the standard access rules through the firewall. So if we go to configuration, management, device management, and if we drop this down we can select management access rules and create them in this section here. So management access rules apply to traffic that terminate on the security appliance. However, this is not used for administering the Cisco ASA, so we'd create them rules in here. So access rules for management traffic for administration such as HTTPS, Telnet and SSH have higher precedence than management access rules in this pane. So permitted management traffic here will be allowed even if explicitly denied in this section here. So an example why you might configure a management access rule is, in addition to detecting IKE for denial of service attacks, you can block them using a management access rule in this section. So it's used for advanced filtering of traffic terminating at the Cisco ASA itself. And to create one, we'd click add here, add management access rule, and then we choose the interface on which the rule will apply from this here. Let's go for inside, for example. Next we'd specify source, so enter network object to host by choosing an existing network object or creating a new network object from this section. And if we click on add a network object, we've got one of four types to choose from, which is host, range, network or fully qualified domain name. And then we'd specify parameters in here. Let's go for an existing network object, let's say inside, for example. If we double click it, it's selected in this section here, and if we click OK we can see it's selected here. So the next part is user. So if you've integrated the ASA with Active Directory, then you can specify a user or user group, and this is also known as identity based firewall. So you can use an identity firewall ACL with access rules, authentication rules, and for VPN authentication. And because we've not integrated with AD, we can't really pick any AD users and groups, but if we have a look in this section, we've actually got a local Cisco ASA database. If we click on local here, and we can see our users and groups in this section here. But if we had integrated it with Active Directory and installed an agent on a domain controller and everything was working correctly, we'd be able to specify our users or user groups which live on the Active Directory server. So let's click cancel here. The next section is security group. So security group is used if TrustSec is configured within the network, which is a security policy management framework, and it's used to stop internal breaches. So TrustSec basically creates an ACL based on tag values and not IP addresses. So if you don't use TrustSec, just ignore it. Otherwise you can configure it from this section here, and you'd either add an existing security group in this section or you'd create a new one by clicking add here. So the next one is looking at the destination criteria, and again security group for TrustSec. So TrustSec security group parameters would go in here. We don't have destination addresses because the traffic is for the Cisco ASA itself. So management access rules is different from standard access rules, where standard access rules you'd have from addresses from source and to destination, where management access rules is from a source but it's to the Cisco ASA. But you can specify a service from here. So let's go for a service in here. Let's go for, let's say, PIM, for example, for multicasting. Click OK here. It's selected it there. You can give it a description such as allow PIM to the Cisco ASA. You can enable login or disable it, and by default the default login level is informational, but you can change that from here. And then you've got more options. So you've got enable rules, so you can enable or disable it. You've got source service, so you can specify a source service from here. It's hardly ever used, but if you have a specific requirement that the packets are initiated from a specific source service, then you can specify that here. You've also got time range, so you can specify time range for which this rule is active or enabled, and you can create a new time range here. Give it a time name, a start time, an end time, or start at and end at, and you'd specify your month, hour, day, minutes, for example. Or you've got your recurring time ranges as well. If you click add here, you can pick days of the week, every day, weekdays, weekends, on these days of the week, etc. So you've got lots of flexibility for time ranges. So click cancel, cancel, cancel. Let's just click OK here, create the rule, and it's created at the top here. And by default and automatically, at the very bottom of all your rules, you've got an implicit deny, so it will deny everything else. So whatever you allow here, there will be an implicit deny at the very bottom in this section here for security purposes. And to differentiate the management access rules in the CLI from the standard administration access rules, if you click on apply here, you can see that you've got the control plane command at the end of it, where you won't have that if you had created the administration access rules in this section. By the way, I've got a video of how to create these administration access rules as well. So click cancel, and that's it for management access rules. So we can now look at standard access rules, which are rules to filter traffic through the firewall. So if we're going through the firewall as opposed to the firewall, and to access those, if we click on firewall and access rules here, so there's a bit more to this area, so we'll have a look at it in a bit of detail. So the first thing is add. So you've got add, you've got a few options in here. These are grayed out because if you select one of these, then you are allowed to select one of these, which is one's insert, which really means insert before the highlighted rule, which we have highlighted just now, and the other one is insert after, so insert after the highlighted rule. So if we click add, and we can specify our criteria here. Again, the interface, you can choose from here which interface it will hit, the action, permit or deny, the source criteria, so again, IP addresses, hosts, ranges, network address, fully qualified domain name, etc. Users, so if you've integrated with AD, if you use trust parameter security group, so usually you'd have a source, say from the inside network, okay, maybe a destination. So this is the additional criteria here. So with management access rules, you did not have destination criteria here, so you can specify a host or a range or a network or a fully qualified domain name here for destination addresses, and you want to do this to make it as secure and tight as possible, which is best practice, to ensure that your source, destination, everything is as specific as possibly can be for each individual rule. So we can just pick Facebook. Okay, so you can pick the service. So let's go for, again, let's just go for HTTPS. Okay, and yeah, so log enabled by default is informational. You can pick that. The other difference in this area is traffic direction. So you've got two traffic directions, one's incoming, one's outgoing. So by default, always incoming is selected, and you'll probably almost always use this option. There is a few scenarios where you can use the outgoing direction as well, but which I'll explain very shortly. I've got a network diagram because traffic directions according to interfaces is different from what most people perceive it to be. So it's not outbound traffic leaving the firewall from the internal network to the internet, general outbound traffic. It's not that. It's not inbound traffic where traffic is coming from the internet into the internal network. It's more to do with the specific interface itself. So incoming is traffic entering that interface, and outgoing is traffic leaving that interface for this particular interface here, and then for this particular interface it will be entering the interface there and exiting the interface there as well. So you'll always use incoming, and the very specific use case for using outgoing is, for example, if these hosts were connected to different interfaces. Let's say there's an interface here connected to this host, an interface here for this one, another interface here for this one. Now all these hosts want to connect to a specific service. Let's say this router here. So rather than creating access rules on each particular interface, one here, one here, one here, to permit these access to this router, we can just have one access rule here in the outgoing direction, and that will permit these hosts to this particular router, and you're only using one access rule there. So that's kind of a specific example of using outgoing traffic direction as opposed to incoming. Okay, so if we click OK here, and we've created the rule here, so you can see it here, and you can scroll along here to see it. And that's pretty much it for that part. So also you've got, if we go back into this interface, you've got interface option as inside, but if we actually cross that off and we go to add, because you can't change the interface once it's created, we've got interface inside, but you can click on any as well. And when you click on any, it becomes a global access rule in which the access rules applies globally to all interfaces. So for example, every network, for example, if every network through all interfaces were allowed to access a particular service, let's say FTP service at a partner site, you'd use this option here. So it will allow you to get to an FTP service regardless of which interface it's going through. But when global access rules do take effect, the implicit deny at end of each interface is gone, and it's at the bottom of the global access rule. So the order changes. So you've got, let's cross this off, you've got these interface rules. So the rule order is, it will check the interface rules first, and then it will check, if there's no match, it will check the global rules, and if there's no match here, then there's an implicit deny at the very bottom, as you can see here. So if we have a further look at these options at the top, you've got edit, so you can edit an interface like that. You've got delete, so you can delete the interface, the rule. You've got up and down cases, so you can move these rules up and down. You can also cut, copy and paste them. You can even paste into Microsoft Word. So if you copy there, you've got the option to paste or paste after. So you can paste it after a particular rule, or paste it into Microsoft Word for if you want to take the rule away and analyze it or something. You've got find here, so you can find a rule, and you've got your filters here, so you've got these filters. You can search based on the source addresses, destination, criteria, source or destination service, user, security group using TrustSec. You've got query, so a combination of these as well you can specify in here. And you've also got a network diagram, which is already open. So network diagram kind of gives you a visual effect of the rule if you kind of find it difficult to understand or something. So let's say this one, it's saying on the inside interface, VPN protocol, permit it, and it's the destination address is here. Let's go for a more easy one to kind of understand. So internal network, permit the TCP protocol here, whatever that is, permit it on Facebook. Destination address of Facebook. Export, so you can export the rule-based CSV or HTML. You can save it. I've already done a test one. Let's just overwrite that one. Open click it, double click it, and then there it is. So you've got your rule-based exported. Clear hits, so you can clear the hits of particular rules. So you've got your hits on the right hand side. Basically, it clears the counted hits for the selected access rule. So login must be enabled for the this field to be active here, so you can see how many times the rule has been hit. And then you've got show log. So show log will show the real-time log viewer and shows the syslogs generated by the selected access rule in the real-time log viewer here. So it's good for troubleshooting and knowing what's going on. And you've got your packet trace. Packet trace, you can run a packet trace tool from here, which basically provides detailed information about packet processing with the ASA. So if there's a packet going from, let's say, from a particular source to a particular destination, particular service, you're able to analyze what's going on with the packet, where it's been, if it's blocked, why it's been blocked, and where in the process it's been blocked. It might be in that lookup issue, it might be just because a rule is blocking it, etc. So it's quite useful for that, and you can pick the specified interface from here, whether it's TCP, UDP, ICMP, IP packets here, and you can specify the rest of the criteria and then do a start on that. I don't think it will work because I'm in demo mode. Okay, so it won't work for me. And if you pick a particular rule, it already fills out the predefined details of the rules. So I've got FTP server here inside with these addresses. Let's just do packet trace. So it's picked out one of the addresses there, and you can start port 21. You can change these. So let's just cross that off, and let's have a look at the rules pane in the middle. So you can see inside, which is just the name really, it's an interface. By default it's called inside. It represents the internal network. The traffic direction is incoming. As I mentioned, it's always incoming unless you've got a specific use case for it. By default it's incoming. Global rules as well, by the way, can only be incoming, they can't be outgoing. You've got your global rules at the bottom. So interfaces, so it's called inside. The interfaces is configured from here. So you got your interfaces in here. As you can see, gigabit Ethernet 00, the names inside. You can select these interfaces and change them around from here. Let's just go back to firewall, discard changes here. So yeah, so this is your rule base. It works from top to bottom. So the order of rules is important. So when the ASA decides whether to forward or drop a packet, the ASA tests the packet against each rule in the order in which the rules are listed. So after a match is found, no more rules are checked. So for example, if you create an access rule at the beginning that explicitly permits all traffic for an interface, no further rules are ever checked. So be careful how you create your rules, and also ensure your more specific rules are near the top, and then the general ones sort of follow going down. Again, there's implicit deny at the very bottom after the global rule here. You can also, if we delete these rules, let's just delete them like that. Let's delete them all. And you can see by default the ASA permits traffic from higher security levels to lower security levels. So this is an ASA overall sort of rule where if you have not got any access rules in place, then the ASA by default allows interfaces configured from high. Let's go back to the interface area and have a look. So you've got your name, your interfaces here, and you've got your security levels. So by default, anything from high security level to lower security level will be allowed, but anything from lower to higher will be blocked. So if you look at watch my video on get started wizard video on the Cisco ASA, explain that a little bit better in there. Yeah, so this is sort of by default factory setting in place, but when you start creating access rules, these go out of the window and they don't matter anymore. So let's discard changes, get our rule base back. That's I think I've more or less covered that. You've also got your if using Active Directory, you've got your identity based users and user groups here. So it's saying these users allowed access to Facebook and YouTube here, so which is a nice functionality to have, and pretty much kind of being used a lot more nowadays. It's relied upon a lot more than source IP addresses, and I think that's it. I think we've covered everything for access rules and management access rules. There's actually is one more bit I wanted to mention. It's connections. You do not need an access rule to allow returning traffic, because the ASA allows all return traffic for established bidirectional connections, because it remembers the state of the connection. But for connectionless protocols such as ICMP, however, the ASA establishes unidirectional sessions, so you either need an access rule to allow ICMP in both directions by applying ACLs to the source and destination interfaces, or you need to enable the ICMP inspection engine. The ICMP inspection engine treats ICMP sessions as bidirectional connections. So if we go to service policy, you've got a global policy here. Double click that, rule action, and click ICMP. Now ICMP will work, so it wouldn't work otherwise. You need an access rule for the traffic to come back, but now with that ticked, it will allow ICMP traffic to get back to you from whenever you are doing any sort of pings. And I think that's now it, so thanks for watching.